फिर से करो. In every heartbeat of life, there's a story.
If I had to experience what people really feel out there, I need to feel a bit of the sunshine, the rain, and the struggles as well.
With each shared experience, there is an invitation to each one of you to introspect, to question, how does this resonate with me?
I started running at the age of 45. In retrospect, I realized that it gave me a great amount of solace and peace.
Join us as we dive into tales that feel written from the pages of our own lives.
There were people all along the route willing to wait, willing to sit, call me back for a meal. There were people who said that yes, we are struggling, but we are satisfied.
Reflect on each narrative and ponder how these tales mirror your own journey. Because in every shared story, there's a spark waiting to ignite your own path of personal transformation. This is Saujanya, your host, welcoming you to our new series, The Change Catalyst from Attitude Makeover. Welcome back to Attitude Makeover. This is your host, Saujanya. Today I have with me the amazing Gita Balakrishnan. Um, some things that really stood out for me was not just the 1700 kilometers that she walked from Kolkata to Delhi, but I'm wondering and I'm curious to know what the journey was like before, during, and post that, because I believe that this is a journey of quest. And oftentimes, when you're on a journey of quest, you sort of hold the mirror in front of you. And this is what a lot of you who are our audience of Attitude Makeover, going through personal transformation, would also be going through. And so today we're going to spend some time with Geeta talking about her walk from Kolkata to Delhi, which lasted for 70 days. But in that process, also understand the ebbs and flows of that journey and also dwell deeper into the 10 guiding principles as she laid out post that journey. And we go deeper and deeper into those 10 guiding principles. So, Geeta, thank you so much for making time and welcome to Attitude Makeover.
Thanks, Saujanya. Really delighted to be here with you today.
Thank you. So, Geeta, I wanted to first start with most of the quests before I come to the top 10, advices or
Commandments, yeah.
the commandments, sorry, that we talk about. I wanted to spend some time to see, I believe that when you're on a journey, it's not like one day just there's a light bulb that goes off and saying, oh, Geeta, from now on, I'm going to walk and this is the quest I'm going on. What were you like before you went on this journey? What, who is Geeta back then? And how has Geeta sort of transformed today?
I'm still discovering what I was back then and what I'm going to become in the future because I'm constantly going back and forth to understand why I did something like this. It's still, if someone had told me maybe a couple of years ago that someone did something like this, I would probably say, you know, I can't believe something like that happened and it's impossible. So, having done it myself, it's something that I keep going into my past to understand, oh, maybe this is something that contributed towards my wanting to do something like this. And it's a constant to and fro that still happens. But on why and how it all started, it's something that, like you said, cannot happen in a day. Both from the perspective of having the mental toughness to undertake something like this, but also the physical strengths to go out there and be able to walk 30 kilometers a day, at least day after day after day after day, is not easy. So it was something that took a while, but the actual story of, you asked me who is Geeta and uh, who's the person you're talking to. I was always someone who was driven by challenges, and I would set them for myself, whether it was, I started running at the age of 45. I'm 53 today. Prior to that, I've done, when I delivered my first kid, I got into the pool and I would do 50 laps a day, uh, day after day after day after day for a long time. And it's something that I think gave me my space to be only with myself. I never realized it when I was doing it, but I think in retrospect, I realized that it gave me a great amount of solace and peace. And that's something that I crave from time to time, because otherwise you're always with people doing things. And I think walking and running are exercises that give you that time and space to do things yourself. And that's something that drove me. I could go on and on, Saujanya, but feel free to keep asking your questions in whenever you want to. But it was about 5 years. So 10 years ago is when 2014 is about 9 years ago is when I took to running. And how I did that is also, I just saw that the Tata run was coming into Calcutta. It was a 10K, 20 and 25K. I registered for the 10K, not just for me, but for the entire family, my husband and my two sons. And we'd done some play runs and, playful things earlier, but not something that was a proper 10K. And I went and told the world about it. I said, hey, every friend that I spoke to, I said, I'm running. So now it was like a matter of pride as well to make sure that you actually did that. And so also for my family. But I think that's when the bug bit us. And at least my husband and I both took to running and have not stopped, not looked behind since then. It's the one thing that I've never had to be concerned about waking up in the morning about. Uh, I want to get back to bed. Oh, it's raining today and I'm so happy, is something that never happened once we started running, because I think we realized what it was doing to us. And that's where the journey of running started. And being an architect, I think, brought in the other love. And that's how the causes came together for the walk, where uh, I started ETHOS in 2002, which is an organization that works with young minds, young architects, students who are studying to be architects. And I would work on outside the classroom learning initiatives for them. The whole objective was to get them to see beyond their classrooms, to get them to realize that there is a world beyond their immediate vicinity, and to give them that exposure as well. And that's when I think I started realizing how little people know about architecture. The general masses and common people know about architecture and design, and how it can kind of make a difference to them. And all that we did through our work was also in a sense addressed to that, because the design problems we would set for students for their competitions would be to address issue that was of importance and so on. And I think it was in 2017, the 35th year, I think, if I'm not wrong, or 30th year anniversary of Sunil Dutt's walk from Bombay to Amritsar. And I read about Priya Dutt writing about what a transforming experience that was for her and her father. And that kind of was magical. Just reading about it was something that did, kind of changed me. And the desperate need to get on that quest, not for the reasons that they did, but get on a quest where I could bring together my love for design and architecture and my love for running and walking, kind of came about in 2017. But it still took 5 years for me to actually get off, yeah, and start the flag off. It took 5 years. 2022 is when I finally started walking, because there were many iterations of what I could do with that walk, and what that experience needs to be. Should it be with a bunch of students? Should it be studying the different climatic zones of India? Should it be studying the different vernacular designs of India? And then at some point, I think during COVID, those visages of people moving from the mass exodus that happened on foot from different locations kind of struck a chord. Although it's kind of, it is ironical that I'm saying that's what set me off on a walk that was fairly luxurious compared to what they went through. It's the irony of it is right there, and I think, but that irony of it is what makes this walk so important as well, because it's exploring exactly that, and that was what was so special. So that's how it came about. Yeah.
And I'm thinking I want to come back to this conversation around it took you close to 4 to 5 years from when you had the inception of this whole concept to the reality of it. But before that, I think when we spoke earlier as well, the vastness of India's tapestry is like it's another experience in itself. And you actually, when you're walking through that, must have really triggered a whole lot of emotions. Um, the India that you knew before the walk to the India that you've come back with post the walk. Can you sort of throw some insights on what really went through you as you were going through this vastness?
Yeah, I'm still making sense, but I went in a little cynical. I expected to see a lot of, uh, you know, maybe poverty, sadness. I expected to be completely shattered by what I saw and come back a very hardened person of sorts in a way. But I must say that I've come back very hopeful and happy at what I have seen. Yes, there are of course, like you said, the vastness of it, the changing, and at the pace of a walk, it's something that you grasp very gently. Like, how does a religious town turn into a industrial town? From a Mathura to a Palwal. How do you see that change happening? And so starkly religious, and then so crazily industrial. And how does that change happen as you're walking, and how you start noticing the buildscape and the landscape changing is something. And then the soil, the colors, the terrain, the rugged terrain of Madhya Pradesh, or even the buildings you talked about, how it's mud and thatch in Bengal, and then you come into Jharkhand, you start seeing a little bit of slate and stone. And then Uttar Pradesh, you start seeing, and Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh seem to be a little more prosperous than, uh, uh, um, uh, and I'm talking only visually,
Yeah.
through what I gathered. They're a little more prosperous than what you saw in Bangladesh, in Bengal, and then I mean, while you're talking about the 1700, there's also the across the border Bangladesh, India, Kolkata to Dhaka walk, to see one nation become another, also while you're walking, and a nation that was actually one at one time. They were actually one land, and to see how that change has happened, and what little nuances that you see that give you an indication of, yes, this is a different land, and at the same time there are places where you gather that it is the same land. Coming back to the this change of what I saw, what I expected to see, and what I really saw. Yes, I did see a lot of poverty. I saw stretches where maybe there were issues of water, but at the same time, this whole thing that they say that the hinterlands are more welcoming, and they have the time, they have the space to sit and chat with you, and engage with you, to welcome you. And I mean, it's actually something that I experienced firsthand. In an urban scenario, we don't seem to have time for anything, leave alone sit and stare, but even to give that smile. And here there were people all along the route willing to wait, uh, uh, willing to sit, call me back for a meal. There were people who went ahead, bought maybe a bottle of water and a garland or a box of sweets, and said, "This is all I can afford to give you." And people who said that, yes, we are struggling, but we are satisfied. And these are words from them. I have video recordings of people saying, "Hum santusht hai." And to hear that and say that if they can be in that place of contentment despite the financial hardships, or the even the modest homes that they have, I think we have a lot to learn from them. So that's something that I came back with a great sense of gratitude and a great sense of peace as well.
Yeah, I think I can relate with this because I think you and I talked about a transformation journey, and the first part of it is really starting to inculcate the sense of gratitude for what you know and what you gather in the process of your journey as well, right? I have one more question on the quest part of it. While you conceptualize the quest, there's this two schools of thought. One is of you need to have a purpose, and that purpose sort of drives you. One of the commandments you talk about is that quest at some point starts to possess you.
Mm-hmm.
um, but oftentimes, just figuring out the quest itself is a journey. And you talked about how it took you about 4 to 5 years for the two to actually intersect and then form a possessive, I want to do this, drive. Is there a mantra around there that one could sort of look at? What's your take on how do you arrive at that quest?
So I think for me, it was always what was beyond this journey that drove me. So the quest was, while yes, in the eyes of many and for myself, it was important for me to complete these 1700 kilometers and this journey that I had undertaken. But what lay beyond is what drove me. And in a sense, that's the larger quest. It never ends, right? Because if I did not complete this journey, then all the plans I had for what I intended to do after would really may not fructify. And
Mm.
so, hence, that's something that really drove me. On, I think everybody has, it could be a daily quest that you have, as well as something that's more larger or a long term thing that people get into. I think it's important to be in this place of, again, it may sound very cliched, but be in this place of absolutely doing what you love and loving what you do as well. It was hard. It was extremely hard every day, and it would be the easiest to say. And nobody would have. They would have said, "Oh, it was highly impossible. It was fine for her to give it up." Nobody would have said that, but it was something that, like you said, it just took over me, and there was no. I mean, there are so many people who ask me, "Was there a day when you felt you could not complete it?" And I said, yes, there were days when I felt, oh, is my body going to, give up? That my shins would hurt, and I had the Achilles heel issue. I had pains that I had never experienced before for a while. But whether I ever said I wanted to give up or I wanted to call it off, there was not a single day where I thought about calling it off at all. Come what may, it was something that had to happen. It just had to happen. So again, if you ask me how do people consolidate on an idea for it to become a quest? I think just keep thinking about it. I used to think, I used to write, I used to read a lot about people having achieved different kinds of quests. It grows on you,
Mm.
and it's something that becomes so inseparable from the person you are and the person you're going to be that it's something that you cannot do without. And
Yeah.
that's the day you set out, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sort of, because we're talking about architecture, when we were building our house, um, when you start building like the grills, suddenly you'll see wherever you're driving, you're just looking at grills. It's like a very natural thing that transforms between you and what you're focused on. And that's what you're talking about. Have that quest and it evolves. Start reading content around that, write about it, and it then becomes an obsessive thing gradually. And it sort of brings clarity as well in terms of
Mhm.
how it falls together as well, right? Gita, in this whole thing, being a woman and walking these 1700 kilometers, um, through the highways of India.
Didn't occur to me at all. It didn't. I have to. I mean, I'm probably stopping you before you even start, but it didn't. It didn't even. come to me that I'm a woman and hence is there going to be a. So that's another myth that kind of got shattered, Saujanya. I didn't feel unsafe in any part. When you get into cities, you tend to see a lot more people glaring and staring at you, which happens even here, because I am dressed a little differently from even a runner. Even here, when I go out on my walk yesterday, and I do wear a bandana, I have this nuts and bottles, and I wear sleeves. I have I have gloves because I'm out there for a very long haul. And so I do draw a lot of stairs. Even when I ran, I used to have longer hair and I would have this little bun on my head and gray hair, and I would be continuously running for so many minutes, if not hours, and I would have people staring at me. So staring is quite natural in our country, and you kind of come to accept it. And you just have to look at them and say, hey, hi, namaste. And then they realize that it's okay to talk, it's okay to stare, it's okay to talk, and then they get into the conversation. So yes, and the only episode that I remember, or couple of episodes that I remember where I felt slightly weird, was in Kolkata when I was still training. There was this tempo traveler with a bunch of people in it, and they must have just seen this crazy woman, and they must have said, let's see if we can rattle her, and they threw eggs. It didn't come at me, but they were carrying eggs probably for their own purposes, and they just threw a few eggs. It didn't touch me. I looked at them and smiled and waved at them, and that was it. They also realized they can't trouble me anymore, and they went on. But other than that, in the long walk, whether it was to Dhaka or in India, I used to walk get out at 3:30, 4 in the morning. And but again, very rarely late in the evening. There were a couple of evenings where I did walk, and I remember getting to the outskirts of Mathura and once Gwalior. I had finished and I was just heading out, and that's where you start seeing the trucks parked, rows of trucks parked. But by then, I had started chatting with truck drivers as well quite often. So they didn't seem so ominous as they would to someone who's not comfortable in these conversations.
I think first was definitely the whole idea of walking for 1700 kilometers as a woman. And I'm not sure if city to city you have the same crew walking with you, or it's not easy for someone to just do that. So that was the first part that you answered. The second part is also about the needs of a woman. There's a toilet, and there's a certain level of hygiene, and you in your age at that time when you were walking, you're also at a point where you need to take care of your health and
Right,
basic hygiene and health itself. And we know as women traveling in India, it's not that simple and easy.
right, right.
So you do take precautions before and after the travel, but here you are walking on the streets almost every day. It's every day, right? And for almost two
Yes.
and a half months.
So firstly, to answer your question about the same crew being with me every city, walking with me every city, the crew didn't walk with me. They were with me in the car. Um, uh, for health purposes, I would kind of motivate one of them to walk the first 5 kilometers and another one to walk another 5 kilometers. But really, they did it for a few days, but then they said, "Let this mad woman do it, and we'll come out when we have to." But yeah, so I did have the same bunch of four who traveled with me from Kolkata to Delhi, to a photographer, a videographer, and there were two who were supposed to navigate. I was largely taking care of it myself, extremely meticulous in my planning. So I had it all down well before even I got the crew together on what the route would be, how many kilometers a day, and wherever we were to stop, I would start looking for places, even if they were like called Hotel Shalimar and things like that. I would still kind of identify 2, 3 places that looked half decent that I could stay in. Yes, we are used to a lot of comfort in the places that we live in. I still am, in fact, have come back home, so I still am someone who cannot use the toilet in the other room, can't sleep in another bed with ease, even in my own house. And I think that's the case for most of us. And like you said, women in India, or maybe everywhere else as well, tend to use the toilet first thing before they leave the house. And then the minute they come back, they tend to use the toilet because they don't know what they're going to be up against. And here I was 6, 7 hours at least out there needing to use it. That means in winter, at least 3 to 4 times in that 7 hours. And in when it got warmer, I still needed to drink a lot of water because it was getting hot, which meant at least two times that I needed to use the loo. I bless. I still am trying to find out who it was that initiated the need for toilets in petrol bunks. I bless the person every day because I think every time we saw a petrol bunk or I saw a sign that another few kilometers down the line there's going to be one, I relaxed, our team relaxed, saying that yes, in another so many kilometers we'll find a toilet because almost every petrol bunk had a toilet. Hygiene levels, yes, a question mark at times. But I had started tempering my expectations as well. Um, um, it wouldn't be something that was obscenely dirty that one couldn't get into. Initially, the petrol bunk guys would refuse to give the key because they said, Madam, ये truck driver के लिए है, इनके लिए, this is not something that you should use. And I said, hey, I'm using it on a daily basis. I know what it's like. Just give it to me. And because they had a lady, they're supposed to have a woman's toilet. They're supposed to keep it under lock and key because then they don't allow the thoroughfare men to start, using it. So it's kept reasonably okay, but there wouldn't be light at times, and you would be using your phone. I used to have a headlight on my head. Then there were stretches where there was no petrol bunk, and that would be sometimes a whole day. I would go past 30, 32 kilometers with no bunk. Which meant that one had to scout for other ways, and that's when I started studying um, this whole thing of sustainable development goals, talking about making countries open defecation free and making sure every house has a toilet. And I started talking to people about it. There were homes where, there would be spaces enclosed by cloth or flex or canvas or jute, gunny bags, and with a roof with the same material or with nothing, which largely women used for bathing. And that would largely be the space that many people use to even, maybe pee. But when it came to the big job, they had to go to the fields if they did not have a proper toilet. And that's something that revealed to me. So I started talking to them, and I would realize that it's not just the space and the building of that toilet that makes them use it or not, but it's also the availability of water. And when people are using one mug of water in the field, or nowadays it's become one plastic bottle, pearl pet, or bottle of liquid that you buy for your fizz drinks or fizzy drinks or whatever. That's what they use. One bottle of water is what they need if they go to the fields. But if it's using their house, you would need 2 buckets of water per head to keep it clean. And they had all of 2 buckets of water for their daily ration, which they would go and get it from somewhere else. And that's something that I started thinking that maybe we should start looking at systems where water is a shortage. You start looking at community toilets as a solution, or start working on solutions that are location based and problem based, rather than say everybody has to have toilets. And yes, so the first day that I used the fields was like a ceiling had been broken in my life as well. Not that I didn't when I was a child. I remember going out for trips with my father in cars, and you would once in a way kind of use a bush as a child when you needed to use it. But here I was, in the middle of nowhere and cars whizzing past, and then you would have to go inside. So there was bushes that one used, or abandoned sites, sites with compound walls, high compound walls. You would go in and use. Then the fear of the creepy crawlies was also there. But I think that first day that you did it, and I had my team of 4 who kind of were bouncers and took care that, they'd say, go ahead, and we are watching that no one comes that way. And after that, I think it was all right. Once you did it, you can find a way to relieve
Yeah.
yourself. And that word relieve is of extreme consequence now in my life. But yes, yeah.
While you're going through that, there were two things you talked about. The first one is taming your expectations, and the second one was the level of planning that went into it. These are two very important aspects of a journey, a transformation journey, as this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When you have a quest and you pivot on a particular mission or vision that you're going after, it's also about keeping your expectations on check and going to the minutest level of details. There's a lot of uncertainty that you're dealing with as it is over here, but within what is in your control, how do I sort of plan for those? And it seems like there's a lot that went into both of these aspects in those 5 years, from the thought of the quest to the reality of it as you started the work. Can you sort of give some guidelines or anecdotal feeds on, how does one go through? And this could be a quest which is much larger as the one you went on.
So, as far as expectations on this trip were concerned, it was hard because one didn't know what to expect. There's not too many people who've been on quests like this. I did speak to a few who, like Srishti Bakshi, who had walked from Kanyakumari to Kashmir over a period of 8 months. I did spend a lot of time. In fact, two of her crew members joined me and were part of my crew as well. But I mean, eventually, I don't think anything prepares you for this, right? Each one's body is different. Each one is. I think even Srishti, when we spoke, there's nothing that, even if someone's asking me, I'm going on a trip like this, what can you tell me? I can only tell you the first part, how to plan, how
Yeah.
to prepare yourself for any eventuality. But on what the expectations part, what to expect, I think that's the beauty of it, that there is nothing that you can expect, and every day is a pleasant surprise or a unhappy, torrid day that it turns out to be, and that's really the beauty of this quest. So that's about the expectation. So there really were not too many expectations, except that I thought it would be a magical, experience, which it certainly was. That was a hope. Well, it can also be completely the other way, and that's also fine. It could have been like in Gwalior, I did fall and I did hurt myself. And the doctor I saw said, think you can think your journey's over. You can assume your journey's over. You can't walk more, is what he felt. But in 5 days, I managed to nurse my injury and I was back out there and I finished the 300 odd kilometers that were left. But if it had stopped when it did, when it threatened to, that's also part of
The journey.
what you set out. You don't know what you're really going to be dealt with out there. And so while yes, I was also on show here because I was on social media. There were and we were putting up stories, and people were expecting. People were also kind of bidding, saying Geeta will walk so many kilometers today. It was like a little reality show that was happening on the side, which I was allowing it to happen because it was important to the cause,
Yeah.
and I thought it was essential. But and hence, if it came to us, stop for some reason, if it didn't work out, it would have been. I mean, I don't even know if it would have been a loss of face because it was on social media and things like that. But it would have been um, maybe a disappointment which one would have had to contend with. But that's also part of the journey in a sense.
It.
So to have that to plan for different things. So a lot of people did ask me, are you not taking a physiotherapist along with you? Are you not taking a doctor? Or So there were doctors and friends who are trainers and who are runners who were on call and who were prepped before I left that, I'm going to be crying on your shoulders. You have to be made available. You have to be giving me time when I need it and so on was done before. And as far as taking these people on the team with me is concerned, I just felt that I didn't want this to be a trip of luxury where uh, I wanted to be able to uh, reach out and connect with everybody that I was meeting, and I didn't want to put distance between me and them through a large entourage or a large set of people traveling with me and things like that. So I said, no, I'll deal with it as it goes. But I think considering the different issues I faced, I think it's essential to keep in touch with the physiotherapist, and I would do things a little differently. I wouldn't go with a lot more people anymore than I did last time. But I would certainly prepare myself a little differently if I was doing this long journey again. Doing smaller ones are different. So, yes, I did spend a lot of time. You talked about 5 years. Well, 5 years was the time the thought took to germinate in a sense. But the actual commitment happened in July 2021 that I would walk. That's when I told my family, and with an air of disbelief, they just listened to me and then kind of accepted.
There's a huge and beautiful analogy to life itself that you're giving in this whole process, isn't it? Uh, life, for all the planning that you can do, it still throws curveballs, and that's what you're talking about. Irrespective, I never took this journey for granted. There's a lot of planning, but then there were curveballs, and
Absolutely.
that's where your readiness and the quest becomes bigger, and that possessive quest
I
becomes
think I'd like to add the word acceptance also here when you're talking about, the curveballs coming at you.
yeah.
And, when we started, I was assuming I would be able to do 30, 40 kilometers a day. I mean, being foolish in my expectations of myself also. And then tempering that. And then along the way, realizing that you know, if you're not able to achieve something or you want to visit, you're at a particular place and you want to visit a particular landmark that you have made a note of, very very you're keen about visiting it, but then you can't because you're so exhausted or you've had another beautiful interaction, and you say you'll have to come back another day to do that. So those are also expectations that acceptance that kind of comes in into uh, the whole picture, yeah, into the equation.
Geeta, one question from my own journey that I think it's important to ask, and probably you can say, I don't want to go into that space, but it's almost like holding a mirror in front of yourself. It's such a solo journey. You might have your crew that is there, but when you're walking, when you're doing this, it's almost like it's a solo thing. You're holding a mirror onto yourself in front of you, right? And that, I don't think we're used to it. And it's got its nice bursts of joys, but it's also a stark, honest look at yourself. Did you go through that? Because these are like 2+ months that you're going through this solo. How, tell me a little bit about that. What was that experience? Did you rediscover yourself?
I kind of cringe or feel really bad when you ask me about the past and the person I've become, and then I see myself becoming the person I was once again because I've been back. It's been a year, over a year after the walk, and I see myself slipping back into certain typical ways that one had in the past, but I had overcome those thanks to the walk. I changed a lot as a person. And yes, holding a mirror, I had a lot of time for myself, with myself. And evenings, the team would be dead to the world because they had to sleep. They had company because there were four of them. and I was all by myself, and I wanted that. It was like my cave once I got into my room. So while it was a lot of loneliness, it was a lot of solitude as well to contemplate and kind of. And I remember, so every morning we would have these conversations with different members of my team. Also, because we were planning for the next day or discovering what happened the day before, what should social media be like, what are my so I would leave voice notes, etc. as well. But I realized that the last 2-3 kilometers when I was walking, if and that's when there was this really wonderful girl who works with me and who's also my niece, Rasya would call, and I would be at my worst because I'm exhausted. I'm, really waiting to get done with it. And the poor girl would bear the brunt of it all because she knew it helped me walk another 2 or 3 kilometers and get done with that. But yeah, so those were also mirrors that would keep, those were also moments that would keep coming back at me saying that I do uh, kind of show my arrogance or anger when I need to keep calm. I mean, I'm talking about this to everybody, right? And then here I am just losing it completely. And every day I would say, okay, not today, not today, not today. And we would get to the 28-kilometer, and there I go all over again. And it's hard. And it's something that I did over a period of time, I think gradually kind of master in a sense. And then you come back and then you get back into your uh, grind, and then you realize you're going back there. But coming back to, I mean, this is just anecdotal aspect that I narrated, but looking inwards, looking at your, what you've done thus far, why you have done some of those things thus far, and what is it that at 55. So when I was 48, I remember this senior architect friend of mine, Vrinda Somaya, telling me that uh, you're going to be 50. The next 10 years of your life are the most important years where you can decide what you want to take forward and use these 10 years to make that happen and leave the rest behind. And that's something I kind of very strongly emulated or followed, and took on a lot of things that, including this walk. Maybe I said, I have to do it now. A little few years down the line, I won't be. My husband tried talking to me, saying once he retires, which is probably in a year from now, he would get on the walk with me as well. But I said, I don't think I can wait that long. I'm doing this now. We'll do more stuff together later. I think those contemplative and reflective hours that I got to myself certainly helped me in not feeling not feeling even a twinge of remorse at some of the decisions I'm taking now. I've not said this in public, but I'm looking at handing over the business enterprise that I've created so far to my team, and moving on very clearly to the foundation and working only with the foundation. And that's going to happen in the next few months or so. And my team was shocked because this is just a couple of months ago. I woke up one morning and I said, I need to have a talk with you, and this is what I'm going to do. And they couldn't believe that I could give up a baby of mine that I had nurtured for 20 years with so much love, and say one fine day I'm just telling them it's yours, and I'd like you to take it from here. And I thought it was one is not to feel that remorse and sadness. There is sadness, but not to feel it enough to stop you from doing it, and to also realize the need for a step like that, because the cause or the intent of what you do is larger than what you are.
I think what you're also saying is it's important to sort of accept this reflection and then acknowledge what you're seeing, and then your actions then are an outcome of this
They
reflection,
follow.
and it's a
Yeah.
natural process, and it's important to first accept that. That's the first step that you're talking about when you're doing these reflections. And this holds good for any journey. Of course, in
Yeah,
this, it's even
absolutely.
more harder because you're with yourself for much longer durations. But any
And
journey,
you realize, Saujanya, which parts of yourself you don't like, which parts of yourself you like, and you kind of I don't know if I took the effort to change me consciously. But I started noticing
mm,
that these are things I don't like about myself. Can I do anything about it? I don't know. Even now, I probably don't do enough. But at least I'm conscious of the times that I'm not someone I like.
yeah, yeah,
And I think I think it's also something that led me to, again, this seems cliched, but uh, how do you make the receiver feel when you're uh, doing or saying or acting? And that's also something that came about thanks to this walk, because you're meeting people, they're looking at you, they're looking at you strangely, you are feeling a little awkward, and then how do you put them at ease? How do you become part of their conversations and their life? And how do you do the reverse, where you tell them about yourself enough to become part of their lives
yeah,
as well? And will they remember you at some point? So I've gone back to some of these places, not walking, but by car. And they this time I'm not in my walking attire. I'm in a sari or a salwar kameez or whatever. And then they still recognize you, meet you, remember you, and yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think this naturally comes to the next commandment, which is, interactions that touched your soul. I think with the vast landscape that we have in India, at the heart of it, it's the people. And that's what you were sort of touching every day as you were going through different towns, cities, and villages. For someone who's on a journey, and this is not something you did in the past, this is a journey you took up first time. And any personal transformation journey is of that kind or that nature. What do you mean by really connecting with the soul over here?
So I think it just let me just step back a little bit and go back to November 13th to 2022 is when I started walking instead of running. And I realized the difference. I think you cycle is what you said. You also
Yeah,
do a lot of walking.
yeah,
And I think running was very, very special to me. It healed me physically in many ways, and I know. And even kind of whether it was 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever you are, you can't think of much more when you're running because it's so exhausting that you are looking at putting the next step in front of. But when you're walking, your mind does wander. You have the pleasure of engaging with engaging your senses, engaging with the outside and the stimuli around, the people around. And that, so November 13th is when I began walking. In a sense, I was walking early, I mean, obviously, but walking with this purpose in mind, beginning with an hour to an hour and a half to 2 hours to 3 hours to 4 hours to 5 hours is what I had started doing. And just to be sure that I can take this journey. And I started connecting with people even then because
mm,
I said, even in our city, otherwise I had the typical running route that you take
yeah,
around a park or a certain route where you probably waving to other runners and you make eye contact. But here
yeah,
I said I should begin engaging with circumstances, with people, with. So I would sit at a chai shop. I would carry a sandwich with me and sit under a tree where there's somebody else sitting and talk to them and get to know them better while eating my sandwich. Sit on the banks of the river where, say, people were performing yoga together, and I'm sitting with them and asking them about how long. So I I must say I started this process consciously initially. It did come naturally to me because I am a fairly social person. My Bengali is not that great, so but I'm not embarrassed about speaking in a foreign language. That's how you learn, and I'm fine with it. And I tell the person starting itself, ki, my Bengali is not that great, but I'm going to sit and chat with you. And they find that in itself, firstly, probably amusing or endearing or an icebreaker of sorts.
Yeah.
And then we start talking. So yes, initially it was a very conscious effort at engaging with people, and in Kolkata itself, and not just people. I'm talking about the built masses, the buildings, the scents, the air, the wind. Which direction is it coming from? The noise, getting to know whether a car is coming in front of you, behind you, footsteps, whether you want to walk faster, slower to get be with somebody. Um, uh, so those are things that I had to consciously cultivate initially, and I think those were also extremely. You talked about connecting with the soul, so that was also a way of connecting back for me when I realized that there was so much I was missing out on
Mm.
earlier. There's so much in the simplicity of people that I started interacting with, and otherwise we don't really connect with them. You probably don't. I mean, again, I'm not generalizing, but many people probably don't know the tea seller on the road or the person who's selling caps outside the Alipur Zoo. Now I do know them. I know the lady who makes rotis in Baliganj or has a shop somewhere else, and I'm happy that I've got into that kind of a effort initially, and now it's not even an effort; it's a joy.
Mm.
And so that kind of made this journey a lot. I was looking, so when you talk of expectations in the beginning, so those were the expectations I had. I was looking forward to the different people I would engage with, and there were some very beautiful interactions. Some were curated, some were spontaneous, some were curated in the sense in Latehar in Jharkhand, there was a police officer who heard about my walk, and he said, "You must meet this woman Mason."
Mm.
And he brought her and her son over, and they spent a whole evening with me, and we even recorded a whole formal conversation like you're having with me. I had with her, but I also, learned so much from her life that she got into becoming a woman mason because she understood the need for toilets. We spoke about the need for toilets, and she realized how important toilets are for women particularly, and hence she got into masonry. She only builds toilets. That's her contract with the government, and she learns from it, and she improves upon the designs.
Mm.
Understands what's not working, what's working, and how to change certain things, and is working in this whole area of Jharkhand. So Rani Mistri is her name, Sunita Rani or Rani Mistri. So yeah, so there have been some fabulous conversations like that. So it was huge. It was very, very intense in a sense, although it was a daily casual conversation. But each one of them was something that moved you immensely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a potly of memories and experiences. My God, I think what a journey you had. I think one question I had was in your, 10 commandments, one of it is dealing with pressure. Um, to your point, you mentioned about it earlier as well. There are days that it goes as per plan. There are days that your body probably is not in sync with the plan that you have prepared earlier, or the external circumstances are different. Nonetheless, there's pressure. Talk to me a little bit about the pressure you went through, and is there a bit of advice on dealing with this pressure as you're going through a journey of uncertainty? Even no matter how much you set your expectations, you've done your planning, this is bound to happen in your journey.
So I think if you ask the team that went with me, or rather the backend team, on if I'm the epitome of dealing with pressure, they'll probably say no, because I did give them a hard time, I must say. But I think the minute I started walking, I was a changed person. I might have been a grouch sitting in the car, and we might have lost our way, and I would probably saying, "How could we do this?" And we would be having those conversations. But the minute I was out there, it was different. It was about what I was there for. It was everything else was kind of uh, pushed into oblivion. It didn't matter, and this is what mattered. Um, and the pressure was part of the expectation. Um, I knew there would be pain. I knew there would be immense amount of pain. It was expected because it's. I know what a 40-kilometer feels like, right? Because I mean, you would also probably know what a 10, 15, 20-kilometer feels like on a bike or a walk. So I knew what a 40-kilometer feels like, and to know that, to realize that you're going to be doing that almost that much or a little less than that, but every day, I knew it would be fairly excruciating and painful. So there was that expectation, and that's on the physical front. But also, losing your way, and I didn't expect, for instance, this whole stretch in Singrauli, which was in Madhya Pradesh, which is the coal belt. It was 4 days of absolute torture. The roads were terrible. There was coal flying all over. I was wearing a mask not because of COVID, scare of COVID, but because you were inhaling so much dust. And I mean, I have the t-shirts that I wore on those days still have the black on them. The shoes never got the coal off. Um, and while you're doing that, while you're suffering the ordeal of going through that and saying, I hope these 4 days will get over, I still think in retrospect, they were one of the, I mean, the journey wouldn't have been what it was without those 4 days. It was, it's like, you need to have pressure to have pleasure. I mean, to
Yeah.
realize what is an easier walk, you had to have something like that. A lot of people ask me, why were you walking in April? Why did you not do it November, December, Jan in the best of weather? Well, I initially thought I would do it in October. I had planned to flag off in October, but then I realized I needed more time to prepare. I had just decided in July, and I thought it was not enough time. But I also thought to myself, if I had to experience what people really feel out there, I need to feel a bit of the sunshine, the rain, and the struggles as well. Similarly, in Singrauli, if I'm wanting to wear a mask because I'm walking there, what of all those people who are living in
Yeah.
those conditions, working in those conditions on a daily basis? Uh, you wouldn't believe, I was in a mushroom cloud of dust every time a truck went by, because there was a couple of inches of dust down there, and the minute it would go past me, it would just room up and envelop me in that dust. It was crazy. And I still go back and rewind and look at those videos every now and then, because it was they were very special part of the journey. So I think, please, in your quest or in whatever you do not wish those pressures away, because I think those pressures are what make it so precious.
So, Geeta, my last part is, what's that future that you're trying to go after? I know that you're invested in the impact of really making sustainability, bringing it to the forefront in architecture, in the world of architecture for India. Beyond that, what's that impact you're looking for? What's that future that you've really been on a quest and that you've been working on? And where's this headed?
So yes, again, when I started off, I knew there would be a journey beyond, but I didn't know what it would comprise, because this walk was meant to craft that journey as well, and it has. So while I think I've identified 6 areas that one would be working on. through the foundation, and those 6 ideas were identified thanks to the walk. And while I'm talking about them, I think I will be touching on different people that I met, which you also asked about a little earlier. So on one of the areas of work is going to be is has already begun, is to see how we can um, dissolve or at least lessen the gap between the hands that build and the hands that design. So we're talking about construction workers here. And it was on day one, or even before day one, when I was looking to get two construction workers to flag off my walk. I found I couldn't find them with ease through my community of architects, because we don't, there are layers between the designer and the actual person who delivers on site. And on day one, I stopped at Dankuni, and I met this bunch of people who were filling earth back onto the site. And I started chatting with them, and I asked them, "What are you building here?" And I was shocked to realize they didn't know what was coming up. They were just doing their job. And this again brought me to the realization that I mean, where is the pride in their work if they don't know what they're even building? And why would they have any affection or any attachment? And why would they give their best if we are not engaging or communicating with them adequately or in the right way? So, besides that, we also realized when I was looking at the flag off, I was looking for a woman also to flag me off. And we found that there were hardly any women on construction sites in Bengal, particularly. I don't know if it is a COVID a fallout of COVID, or if it's something that I believe that the number of women on construction sites is reducing gradually all across. So these are all questions that I'm not looking to solve these problems, because I don't think it's within my bandwidth. But I'd like to start highlighting them, making my community of architects and designers aware, and bring them. I mean, again, through their collective action, maybe bring about change. So that's one area of work, the hands that build. I've launched it under the head Project Shrama, is what it's called, Shramik Action. We've received some funds on a Maharashtra centric project for which we're working, where we will be beginning with a survey of understanding their lives. We're doing a survey of about 100, and there will be oral, I wouldn't call them histories, but oral commentaries, video commentaries, as well as group interviews and things like that. That will happen under that project. We've called for fellowships on that. We are going to be doing video tutorials by construction workers on details on construction sites. On, they know best some of these things, so they will teach us, or they will teach students. So that's project dignity. First one is project inclusion, project dignity, and project empowerment, where we are doing a financial literacy workshop, as well as so this is the first step for a small group of construction workers in Maharashtra. And then I'm hoping that that will be the pilot and more will happen. The second area of focus, that action area that we're looking at, is uh, it's called, I've called it both being building on design histories. And we find that, I mean, if I was to ask you to name a monument, I wouldn't be surprised if you talked of a temple or a fort or a tomb. But how many of us consider the day-to-day buildings that most of us live in as monuments? Because if 80% or 90% of people live in these homes, and they build their own homes most of the cases over a period of time, and the quality and the design of these homes has evolved over a period of time to almost perfection, in the at least in the traditional setting. And we've lost most of that, because we are, while I wouldn't want, I mean, I'd probably be pilloried for saying that monuments these I call invisible monuments. I understand that the monuments that I referred to earlier are important because they are the ones that probably give livelihood to many people. And they also are a way in which you can safeguard certain traditions and crafts and ways of doing things. But that's not the way you build your home or build the majority of buildings around you. To talk about how these people lived, how they interacted with each other, how they maybe built their guilds. I think their spaces are the ones that would tell their story and not the larger monuments, which I'm beginning with a gentle walk. It's going to be the Walk for Our Cause 3.0. We are walking from Konarak to Bhubaneswar.
Oh, wow.
We are going to be, and this time there are going to be, it's a walking studio. This time it's a walking studio where there would be about 4 or 5 colleges of Odisha that will be participating and walking with me. We'll be interacting with settlements along the way, with craft along the way, with people along the way. And the whole idea is for us to discover the magic of the local ways of doing things and kind of highlighting that whole area as we go along. So that's something that is exciting and I'm looking forward to because it's on the 21st of September, 20th of September, we flag off from Konark, and 25th is when I intend to reach Bhubaneswar. I'll be walking the whole distance. It would be unfair for me to expect all of them to walk along with me, but we would be curating it in a manner where they walk parts of it and they are studying parts of the settlements and so on. That was the second area. The third area is called Project Udita. On day 51 and day 16 of my journey, again, were fairly transformational for me. I met with, on 51, I met with a blind person. And on day 16, I met with a lady in Ranchi on a wheelchair. And we all know that our environments are not conducive for persons with disabilities to comfortably navigate and maneuver their life around. And interacting with these two people made me realize the importance of um, bringing the importance of making sure that architects understand the role that they can play, designers understand the role that they can play. The blind person I'm talking about is Harshvardhan. I met him in Datia. I had gone to his house and I found a young man receiving me at the gate, and we went up the stairs. He switched on the lights, fan. He made me sit on a gadda. He removed his harmonium and said, "I'm going to start singing for you." And I said, "Hey, I'm here for something. I'm exhausted. I finished my walk and I just want to do what I have come here for." And he said, he's Harshvardhan Dubey. He's the blind person, but within his house, he knows his way around. The minute he steps out, society has made it impossible for him to navigate. And hence Project Udita, where the full form of Udita is Universal Design is the answer. Besides that, the other 3 projects that are yet to take off, one is environment and infrastructure, which is where you asked me the question about toilets, the highways, resting places. How should a typical stretch of a highway in India be? Does it need to be something that we see in the West? And then also we're talking about making design accessible to those who don't have access to it. Very often, design is elitist. It's available to a certain segment of the population, but those who really need it are the ones who don't get it. So that's the other area that one has to one. I have to craft the journey on that front, and design literacy itself on what the power of design is.
Gita, I can't thank you enough. This is part of the change catalyst, and the idea was to really identify people who are pivotal in this journey of change, and that's why the name catalyst, right? And to your vision, I think each one of those, whether it is inclusivity or creating awareness around some of these unconscious biases that we grew up with, and sort of opening the mind to look at it holistically and be inclusive, and doing that with both colleges, universities, as well as the fraternity that you're part of. That's a big, tall journey you're
It
on.
is. It is. Yeah.
Yeah,
And even if I manage a fraction of it, I think it'll be a
yeah. But good luck with this. I'd love to see how I can help you in any way, in any form. But thank you so much for this beautiful conversation.
thanks. Thanks, Saujanya. Again, this is another way of connecting, right? It's the walk that brought me close to you. So that's
Absolutely.
lovely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much.